Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Hey guys, Trip here, and I've been getting back into Morrowind. Yeah, I know I said I was done talking about the Elder Scrolls for a while, but it's been over a year, so I decided I'd jump back in. I figured that, instead of whining about how much Skyrim sucks and it does, I could talk about a game in the series I actually like. Now, I think most people agree that when it comes to story, atmosphere, and world building, Morrowind is the best in the franchise. But I'm starting to think the gameplay is better as well. Alright, yeah, I know what you're thinking, but hear me out. First off, this isn't a matter of nostalgia. I started with Oblivion, and I didn't go back to Morrowind until years later. There's no rose-tinted glasses here. I genuinely think this game is brilliant. Now don't get me wrong, Morrowind has a lot of problems, but I think people overstate them a bit. So before we get to the good stuff, let's address the Elec in the room. Morrowind's problems come down to two things: balance and presentation. Morrowind is laughably easy to exploit, but it's also full of little bugs and oversights that make it obtuse and unfair. The graphics and animations were dated, even for their time. I actually think this is what ruins the combat, not the infamous dice roll mechanics. Plenty of RPGs use RNG to calculate the combat, but because the animations are so bad, there's no satisfying feedback to any of your strikes. Imagine if this looked like this. Yeah, it's all in the presentation. So yeah, Morrowind's gameplay may be dated, unbalanced, and best enjoyed with mods. But I need way less mods to make Morrowind enjoyable than I do for Fallout 4. Why is that? It's because Morrowind's design philosophy, the foundations on which it is built, is the best in the series. Morrowind's gameplay is deep, it's engaging, it's satisfying in a way no other Bethesda game is. If Morrowind released in 2008, 2011, or 2014 with the budget, polish, and technology of the competition, it would be the superior game. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a look. The first thing that stands out to me about Morrowind's gameplay is how every mechanic feels deep without feeling overcomplicated. Unlike later games, there are multiple ways to accomplish the same task, and they each feel distinct from each other. Sure, I can open a door with a lockpick, or I can use a spell, but spells can't disarm traps, which means a security skill is still useful. Unless I'm skilled in both alteration and mysticism, meaning I can use an open spell followed by telekinesis to set off the trap from a safe distance. The whole game is like this. Pick almost any mechanic, no matter how simple and boring, and I'll show you how Morrowind makes it interesting. Don't believe me? Okay, let's pick something random like, I don't know, carry weight for example. In most Bethesda games, carry weight is pretty simple. If you have more loot than you can carry, you can't run. End of story. In Morrowind, managing your carry weight is an important part of the game. The less you carry, the faster you move, and there are multiple ways to play around with this mechanic, all based on your specific playstyle and skills. If you want to carry more and move faster, the most straightforward way is to increase your strength. Or you could just cast a feather spell, which subtracts from your carry weight points. This is great for a quick burst of speed. Speaking of which, if you just want to run faster, why not increase your speed? Go for a hike or a swim and level up your stats. Or if you're lazy, just cast a spell that fortifies your speed or strength or both. Speaking of spells, why not cast a burden spell on your enemies? This increases their carry weight points, slowing them down or even stopping them in their tracks. The amount you can carry is almost as important as your combat ability. Remember, the less you carry, the faster you move. You also drain less stamina. This can make a huge difference in combat. Stamina affects everything you do. As it goes down, your attacks start to miss, your spells start to fail, and you're more easily staggered. But your enemies get tired as well. So longer battles become more about wearing your opponent down than about brute force. I often use absorb fatigue spells to tire out my enemies before going in for the kill. But if I'm decked out in heavy armor and weapons, I'd better kill my enemy before I run out of energy. So as a player, you're given the choice between speed and efficiency, or more loot and better gear. Compare that to Skyrim's system. Remember, we're just talking about a single aspect of this game's mechanics, and a pretty mundane one at that. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Morrowind is a sandbox full of options, a playground of player expression. Hell, just look at the magic system. There's a spell for pretty much everything you can imagine. Teleporting, flying, turning yourself into a Superman with fortify spells, giving your enemies permanent brain damage. Hell, you can even combine spell effects. Want to turn your enemy into a blind berserker who will ravenously attack everything around them and miss every time? Well, just combine a blind spell and a frenzy spell.
Run or die!
This reminds me of that scene from Kill Bill.
Hold still.
Now imagine if this game was made in 2019. Imagine if every one of these spells had the polish and presentation of a modern game. So, damaging your enemy's agility might make them trip over their own feet, or a strong burden spell might crush them under their own weight. A silent spell would literally keep your enemy from speaking, while a frenzy spell would make them scream like a lunatic. Imagine a game where these factors are taken into account, where the AI responds to them accordingly. So a frenzied enemy might alert the whole dungeon. An enemy that trips could get demoralized and perform worse in combat. All of these effects spiral off each other, rippling off each NPC, causing a chain reaction of behavior. This is a game where mechanics and immersion are one and the same, where you're encouraged to experiment with different tactics and effects. Now wrap that gameplay up in an open world with brilliant world building and player expression. That's what a modern Morrowind looks like. That's where the series could have gone if they learned the right lessons. So I mentioned levitation and teleportation. We can't just gloss over that. These are spells that would absolutely break modern Bethesda games. That's because, as open as these games seem, the level design is actually pretty linear. Most dungeons are flat, straight lines that circle back on themselves. They also have scripted events that would break if you could just teleport away at any moment. Meanwhile, Morrowind's levels are built with freedom in mind. There's a lot of verticality in both cities and dungeons. This encourages the player to invest in acrobatics, levitation, water breathing, slow fall spells, or just carry some potions or enchantments that have the same effects. Rather than feel tedious, it feels rewarding. Hell, some of the best loot in the game is hidden right above you, or deep in underwater tunnels beneath your feet. But the best thing about magic in Morrowind is actually its limitations. Magic regenerates very slowly in this game. Now, in the base game you need to sleep for your magicka to regenerate at all. I hate this, so I use a mod that lets it come back in real time, but just as slowly. But whether you mod it or not, this makes magic feel valuable. If you're a mage, potions become an essential part of any adventure, and you'll find yourself hoarding magical items like a greedy sorcerer. As a mage, I still want to use an enchanted weapon for backup, especially against weaker enemies, just so I can save my big spells for emergencies. You can't just spam your biggest nukes in this game, you need to think beyond a single battle. Believe it or not, it's mechanics like these that help suck you into the world. I'm not just a murder hobo killing bandits for fun. I'm a sorcerer on the hunt for magical artifacts who needs a steady source of income to feed his potion addiction. So many RPGs feel artificial and lack organic motivations for the player to roleplay. Meanwhile, Morrowind feels like an adventure simulator. When I'm exploring the countryside, it actually feels like I'm hiking in some dangerous alien world. You gotta travel light, bring some potions, buy some teleportation scrolls for a quick escape. It's hard not to roleplay in a game like this. I don't need a mediocre story to railroad me toward better gear. I'm constantly on the hunt for ancient artifacts to give my character an edge against the competition. This is the only game where I actually feel compelled to exercise my character. Sometimes I go hiking just to improve my character's athletic skill. Sure, it may be a little excessive, but I'm 2 points away from my next promotion and I'm going to be a knight, damn it! So many decisions are being made in every second of Morrowind that it starts to feel real. After a while, you kind of forget how NPCs are walking encyclopedias, or how the world never changes based on your actions, or how damn foggy it is without mods. A lot of people say Morrowind is the best RPG Bethesda has ever made. Well, the story is just half of it. This is the other half. Gameplay built from the ground up around player expression and decision making. But even with all this praise, I can still admit that Morrowind sucks in a lot of ways. I wish these mechanics were more balanced, more modern, and had even greater depth. So it's such a shame that this philosophy was abandoned in later games. I've talked at length about how the story and world building fell apart after Morrowind, but this is just as tragic. Imagine an alternate reality where, instead of pruning these mechanics, future games improved upon them, made them more accessible and intuitive, with better AI and more impactful choices. What would the Elder Scrolls look like today? Honestly, I think a better successor to Morrowind would be closer to Breath of the Wild. A sandbox full of systems and mechanics to play with. Imagine all the depth and lore and political intrigue of Morrowind with the systems, synergy, and experimentation of Breath of the Wild.
Stop! My penis can only get so erect.
And that's why I decided to talk about this. Whenever we talk about how to make the next big RPG, Morrowind is oddly left out of the conversation. It's as if the early 2000s jank blinds people from the brilliance of its design philosophy. As creators, there is so much we can learn from this game. As consumers, just imagine what a modern version of Morrowind could look like. I'm not saying every RPG should be exactly like Morrowind. I'm saying it should be a building block, a template, one of many tools for developers to build upon. So many RPGs are inspired by Baldur's Gate or Arcanum or Fallout. Where are the games inspired by Morrowind? No game has ever filled the void that game left behind. I think that should change. But hey, that's just my opinion. Hey guys, Trip here. If you liked that video, why not watch some more? Hit that like button and make sure to share this video on Reddit and social media. If you want more Psychotrip, check out my Patreon. There you'll find all of my videos, as well as articles I've written for Comicsverse. If you like what you see, think about donating $1 or $2. I tried counterfeiting money, but no one seems to fall for it. Maybe I need a new printer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.